Hey guys, how are you? It is Jordy from Seven Eagle Group. I am fired up today to have my good buddy Jay Sheehan on with us. Um, Jay was born in Connecticut, spent 13 years in the Army as a 97 Echo, military intelligence, and then the next 22 years in staffing and working as an executive recruiter. Um, this guy is responsible for helping thousands of job seekers every year during that time get hired, start great careers. And Jay is currently working on a really exciting initiative right now, which we'll talk about in a minute, in Puerto Rico, where he's constructing a 10,000 square foot SOC, security operations center. So, you will not find a guy out there in the recruiting industry who is more experienced and knowledgeable about what it takes to get hired. Um, a real deep understanding too of the hiring manager's point of view, which is what we're going to talk about as well. You're going to hear some of his secrets, some of his tips and advice for you to get hired. This guy cares so deeply about helping his fellow veterans start great careers, and I'm just excited that he was able to make some time to join us today on this job search expert series. So Jay, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Morning, Jordy. Thanks for having me. I don't
All
know about
right.
secrets, Jordy.
Awesome.
I don't know about secrets. We're not doing secrets today.
We'll get into it. So let's start out. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your time in the Army, why you joined, what you learn from that, what you took away?
Well, I joined the Army during Desert Storm. It's kind of a family business. My mom was in the Marine Corps and then joined the Navy Reserve after that. My uncle was Army Special Forces during Vietnam and Air Force prior to that. And then my grandfather was a Marine Corps drill instructor and onboard ship during World War II. So it's kind of a family tradition, I guess, for us to serve our country. And it was always my pleasure and my honor to do that. I started actually, Jordy, as a 12 Bravo combat engineer, blowing stuff up. That was the fun part that I wanted to do when I was 18 years old. And then later transitioned into military intelligence and got to go out to DLI, the language school, for a couple of years and learn Arabic. And it was really an incredible time of my life. So
that's awesome. What do you feel you took away from serving in the military? Like, how did that make you a better person and help you in your professional career?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with discipline, self-discipline, knowing that no matter what we do, we have to get up in the morning and do our job the next day, right? So there's no time for messing around, so to speak, when the job has to get done. So dedication, self-discipline, and the ability to dig deep and say, no matter what, I'm going to get the job done. I think that were the few things that I took away, as well as the brother and sisters that I served with. That family is strong. And today I still talk to a great deal of them, so
yeah,
that's a much bigger part to me in the military is the guy and girl next to me. So.
And it's interesting that you chose to head down into the recruiting industry after your service, because that's so similar to what you were, helping one another, and there's no better way to help someone than to help them with a career, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a rewarding career in staffing. I've really enjoyed myself, and like you said earlier, I've helped a lot of people get jobs. So
yeah,
it makes me feel good.
Talk a little bit about your experience over the 22 years. Like, why did you choose that career? Why do you like it? What are
why I chose it, honestly? I've always been pretty decent at talking to people and getting to understand them better. So it was a very natural fit for me to be able to sit down and interview somebody, find out what their career goals were, or where they were coming from and where they wanted to be, and try to help them get to that next spot, right? Because I've always tried to help people or go out of my way to help people no matter what. So it was kind of a natural fit in that sense.
Yeah.
And then the fact that a lot of us are lost when we're trying to find a job. And I've seen that progression. I think we've all seen that progression since I started in the staffing industry until now. You can get lost even easier now because everything's so electronic. Back then, you know, it was you sent the resume in or you faxed the resume. I know I just told everybody how old I was by saying it was a fax machine, but you would send a resume in with a cover letter and you would go and fill out an application and leave a resume. Nobody does that anymore. Everything's online. And as we were discussing earlier, it's so easy for a candidate to get lost in that process that we all feel like we've been ghosted at one time or another.
Yeah.
So see that progression. Technology is great, but at the same time, it's really good at making things no longer personal.
Right. It's a lot harder when you're competing with 1,000 other applicants. It's a lot different ballgame.
You got to stand out, and you got to get that recruiter or hiring manager's attention. And you know, sometimes that's easy, and sometimes that's the most difficult part. But the way you make that connection. If you make that connection, then you can hopefully move to the next step. So
good. All right, let's talk. Tell everyone a little bit about this initiative you're working on. You are living in Puerto Rico now, which you guys can see the sun coming through his window. Talk about what you got planned.
Well, it is getting warm, Jordy. So, you know, I'm glad we're getting it done earlier. Well, right now we're currently constructing a cybersecurity secure operations center here on the island of Puerto Rico. We're doing that in conjunction with Polytechnic University of Puerto Rico, who has an excellent cybersecurity program that's authorized by DHS and NSA. So we're excited about that partnership. We're creating a 10,000 square foot facility. 3,500 square feet of that will be actually secure operations. The other is, you know, our network operations center, conference rooms, etc. But our initiative is to train and hire over 200 veterans on the island of Puerto Rico over the next 5 years. The general population of Puerto Rico is made up of 10% veterans of the United States. So it's a very noble cause, and we're going to try to move that needle in veteran employment and create some very well-paying jobs that are high-tech of nature and will actually bring them a better career path moving forward.
That's awesome. And talk about the train. You're not just putting them to work and getting them great careers and pay, but you're training men and women who want to be in this field, right?
Yes, sir. We've got several trading partners. One of them being Dion Trading, that is actually local, and he's probably one of the best known on Udemy and the others. But with his help, we've recreated our entire training structure so that we can get these people certified in CompTIA A+, Security Plus, Network Plus, CYSA, you know, any number of different certifications that we can in order to give them better career skills that will not only benefit the company, but benefit themselves later on in lives if they decide to move on. We can do that in boot camp styles where we get them up and running very quickly so that they can be immediately additive to the workforce and to our workforce, basically. So.
And so if anyone's out there who, you know, in the very near future could see yourself working with Jay in a SOC and you want to go live on the beach, we'll be posting some of those positions very soon. So cool.
I don't think the beach much, Jordy.
Yeah, he's locked in that office nonstop. Yeah, we'll make time for the beach. All right. So what we're going to do now, I have 7 quick topics. We're going to go one at a time. I'm eager to hear Jay's opinion on each of them, and hopefully you guys will take away some great educational stuff. So first one is the importance, Jay, of choosing that right career path and making sure when you start your post-military career that you're heading down in an area that is going to give you a lot of satisfaction and happiness and give you a chance for success. So talk a little bit about your feelings on this.
Well, I see this a couple different ways, Jordy. So some of us are in a military career that, you know, we may or may not be happy in, and that will help us choose our next career or get away from that one. The other thing is that a lot of us get stuck in that same military career on the civilian side. You know, it's easy to transition into the same career when you leave, and there's nothing wrong with that, frankly. But some of the things I see with that too is if you don't have that career satisfaction, you don't feel like doing that every day, then maybe it's time to look for that different career when you're starting to transition out. You know, the program that we've talked about several times and we use ourselves is Skillbridge. It could be a good opportunity to try something new before you leave, right? The other thing too is, for me, a career has to, I have to want to get up and do it every day. I want to feel happy about it. I want to feel like I've given back. I want to feel as if I'm doing making a difference, right? And a lot of times we're hard fetched to find that in certain careers, especially when you're transitioning out. So I think for the transitioning side, I think take your time and figure out exactly what you want to do, right? So is it spend more time with family? You know, you don't want to take that next deployment as a civilian contractor if you haven't seen your wife and your kids and that's important to you, or your husband and your children and that's very important to you. So I think that's really one of the things that you have to concentrate on is what makes you happy, right? What do you feel good about every day? What do you feel like you bring to the table, right? So I believe that a lot of us become experts in our career in the military, and that makes it easier to transition into the civilian side, depending on the job, right? Not all careers translate. They really don't. You know, we try to, and as military employment people, we really try to help, you know, bridge that gap for these people. But a lot of times it doesn't make sense, right? You know, you're not going to be an interrogator working at Home Depot. You could be, but it's not really a skill set that they need. They need, you know, someone to put stuff on the shelf, right? So I think taking a long, hard look, writing down some notes about what you want to do, what makes you happy, where you want to be in the next year to 3 to 5. I wouldn't go much further than that because, you know, even civilians, we move around a lot, you know. You're moving every couple of years, or, you know, that house, you outgrow that house, right? Kind of thing. So I think on the career side, it has to give your life purpose, frankly, because if you're going to be doing it every day and that's your career and not a job, because there's a big difference. The career has to make you feel good here, right? And there's no easy or right answer to that. You know?
But that's good. That's really good advice. Just take your time, go slow. You don't have to rush this. Make sure you pick something that's going to make you happy. You know, ask advice of guys who came before you. And
I mean, there's plenty of us out on LinkedIn or at local veterans organizations that wouldn't mind talking. You know,
right?
I can only you know, one of the shows that you and I have been involved with before. You know, I think one of the things, and I know you're going to get to this later about the pay it forward, but I think one of the things most important for us as veterans is we have to be there for each other still. You know, just because the military career is ending doesn't mean that friendship and bond has to end. You know, that's the most important part, because that's your support network. We go back to wherever we came from, Connecticut, Missouri, wherever it was, and we feel like we're alone. But we have these brothers and sisters that we could reach out to. We just have to pick up the phone. And it goes both ways. Right. You know, you might still be on active duty and your friend left because they ETS'd and got out. Well, why haven't you called them? Because you're still in the military and what? They're no longer your friend or family member? You know, it'll make a difference later on. And I think that's a very important key part too. That structure that we have in the military, that always trying to get it done together, putting the next person forward, we have to carry that out of the military into our civilian lives. And that transition happens between active duty, and transitioning out as well. So we have to stay cognizant of that and try to keep those networks tight and together.
Great advice. Awesome. All right, next one. Let's talk about networking. What are some of your favorite strategies for veterans, for active duty service members who are new to networking? How do you do it in the civilian world and do it effectively?
As we were just talking earlier, it's getting more and more difficult now with electronic. With all this technology, it's taken us out of the equation more. We have to do things like this, be live on a webcam early in the morning to get the word out there. One of the things is look for the LinkedIn groups that make sense for you in your career path. I believe in that a lot. There's a lot of good people out there that want to help, and you never know whose connection can be your next, right? So that's what networking is about. Getting out there, being yourself, and not afraid to put your hand out there and shake someone's hand. The other thing is they don't do the traditional job fairs as much anymore, especially after what we've been through the last couple of years. If they do, it's an excellent opportunity to get out there, and it's really satisfying a few things. One, it gets you out there and gets you in the mix. So in other words, you can get out there, hand a resume, and speak to 100 different recruiters in one day. Scary, yes. Most likely you'll be sweating all day because it means something. If it means something to you on your career, then you're going to want to put effort and forth into that. But the other thing about that is that it gets you in the habit of getting out of your comfort zone. For the last couple of years of my military career, I hung out with the same, 7 to 10 people every day, and that was my network. Okay, well, now your network needs to grow exponentially as you get out of the military, right? So you have to get out there and do it. And there's only one way to do that, and that's to do it. So a in-person job fair, if they have employers coming to your local base or wherever you're around as you're trying to ETS out, I believe that it's important. Whatever the outcome is, don't go there thinking, oh, I'm going to get that job today. Just that first couple times, just get out there, shake hands, and get to understand what your pitch is, right? You've got about 30 seconds, and now it's even less. It used to be 30 seconds when we all had a better attention span prior to the phone. Now it's less than 30 seconds. It's 12 to 15 seconds is what we have to capture somebody, right? So to me, getting out of that comfort zone is the most important thing you can do to networking, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help either. There's plenty of us on LinkedIn that are all veterans and all trying to help. There's the veteran organizations on LinkedIn. There's Facebook groups. There's local chapters. There's even veteran chapters at your local colleges a lot of times. So don't be afraid to put yourself into those places, even if you don't know if you fit, because you never know if you fit until you start talking to somebody. The guy or girl next to you might have actually served in the same unit and you didn't even know it, or a unit similar to yours, so you have a background that's comparable, and he or she might be able to help you network into another position. One of the most important things about networking to me is getting out there, and I can't say it enough, right? Watch the veteran podcast. If someone comments on something that holds true to your heart, comment back. You just made a friend, most likely. Yeah. You make that friend, you don't know who that friend knows, right? So I've gotten to meet some really incredible people over the last couple of years, spending more time in the veteran community than I have in a long time. And it's all because I wasn't afraid to say, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? I would really love to talk to them about X. It's very simple.
Yeah.
The answer would be one of two things, yes or no, or I'll try. And he or she may try to get you connected with them. And if it works, fantastic. You just made another person in your network. Now, think about it in that old adage of, so Jordy, you have 500 contacts. So that's 500 more people I can talk to, right? And if I make 5 connections with 5 out of your 500, they have 500. Now that's 2,500 more people in my network I can talk to.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just the gumption or ability to get out of your comfort zone and say, hey, Jordy, can you introduce me to,
Right.
and that's
Right.
It's not rocket science. It's just, we have to become good at pitching ourselves. Right.
Get out of that uncomfortable feeling. Let that just throw it. Yeah.
Sometimes pitching ourselves isn't a pitch. It's just, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so?
Yeah.
Or I'm really looking for work, or I'm struggling to find work, or whatever. Excuse me. People want to help.
Yeah. You got to let them.
Inherently, as in nature, we want to help each other. You have to ask for it sometimes, and you have to let someone help you. A lot of times we're too proud to ask for help, and we're awful proud to accept it. So put the pride away and get out there and meet some people.
And it could go both ways too. Even if you're searching for a job, you can be a good networker for somebody else. You can help other people who are facing the same struggles, right?
Right. It's all in that network.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. All right. Next, you touched on it briefly, the Skillbridge internship. How valuable is something like that while you're still serving, as you're making your transition, to just start thinking about your career, get out there if you can, participate in something like Skillbridge, and just set yourself up for a good career path?
I think this is probably the best program the military's ever put out, honestly, to me. And I think it's underutilized. And there's a couple reasons for that, of course, probably more than a couple. Some employers don't understand it or know it or know how it works. And some service members either don't try to enroll in it, or there's problems with command because of their job. It's understood. But if you have the ability to get into a Skillbridge internship program, I say take it. I would take it with everything you can and put every effort forth into that program, because, for instance, we use it as on the cybersecurity side, and we've gotten some great people out of it that have true solid skills, and we're going to help them transition into the civilian world at that point and give them actual civilian experience so that they have a little more to bring to the table than just the military.
Yeah.
I don't care what your job is. If Skillbridge is available, you should look into it.
Yeah.
Really. One, it'll give you that foot in the door to an employer. They're not going to spend 3 to 6 months with you as an intern and then not interview you and want to hire you if you did a good job, right? So think about that, as we were talking about earlier, about that career path. If you're serious about your job in the military, and that's what you want to do when you get out, Skillbridge is your foot in the door, right? It's almost the easiest way to transition I've ever seen, as long as you put forth the effort and go out there and get it done, right?
Yeah.
There's some hoops to jump through, but there's always hoops to jump through, right? But you get an employer that's taking the chance on you for those months before you leave, and they're going to work with you, help train you, develop your skills a little further. They're going to interview you for a position at the end of that, the position that you're currently in. Think about it. It's not hard to understand that, you're in that top, 5 percentile of getting that job at that point, right? So I would just say take it. Go after it. Go after it with everything you have.
Yeah, it's such a huge competitive edge. Awesome. Did you want something else on that one?
I just wanted to say one other thing on the Skillbridge program.
Yeah.
So on the Skillbridge program too, there's a lot of us out there that are trying to help get you employment or put you into a program. And a lot of times we're impatient, not on our side, but on the military side, we're impatient because we just want to get it done. I would say whoever that person is that's trying to get you in the Skillbridge program, and there's a couple, there's your command, your chain of command, but there's also that person at the company that's trying to put you in place. You want that person to like you. You want that person to be on your side. So just put your best foot forward and don't overstep. So in other words, they might have 400 people they're dealing with for 3 positions on that Skillbridge side. Give them the opportunity to get back to you. Don't assume anything. Just handle it professionally. I think that's one thing that we all need to understand, that we're not the only person out there. but if you allow someone to help you, they're going to.
Right.
And by that I mean, give them the opportunity to do what they're trying to do. Don't overstep that boundary and keep pushing on them thinking that, oh, okay, this is a done deal. It's never a done deal until you start. So
Right.
I just want to put that out there because I've seen it happen, and they, you know.
Yeah. Good. All right. Let's chat about resumes. I know it's not the most important tool, you know, in your kit to get hired. There are other things like we just talked about, networking, and but talk about some of your favorite ideas for people can use for writing a great resume that'll hopefully get them more attention.
Okay. Resumes have changed a lot too, but the one thing that hasn't changed over the last, 10 or 15 years is all companies are using an applicant tracking software, and that ATS, as we call it, are picking out keywords from the resume and parsing across the job description. The most important thing, and I sound like a broken record here to me in my head because I've heard it for so many years, and I think we all have, is you have to do a resume for the job you are applying for.
Yeah.
Listen, we all do this one or two generic resumes, and resumes are not easy to write. I'm not going to lie to you. They're not easy to write, and they're painful to me. I would rather go to the dentist than actually have to sit and write my own resume again. Because one, how do you really condense everything into such a short, synopsis that actually makes sense? And then on the military side, how do I actually translate what I did in the military into a civilian career? All right, so that's another problem, drawback to me on a resume. But third is, I don't want to have to write it over and over again, right? Right. Unfortunately, that is the only way a resume is going to be effective in today's day. So by that, I mean, you see the job description, you're going to see the hot buttons that they're looking for, like SQL or forklift operator, whatever it is, that job skill. If you don't have that directly relatable on your resume is at the bottom of the pile. So read the job that you're applying for, take a few minutes, rewrite your resume on certain points, just looking for those key highlights, if you have them, right? Don't say you're an excellent SQL person if you've never used SQL. You're basically lying. You might as well not even apply. So to me, grab the keywords off of that job description or the application that you're trying to apply for. And then if you have them and they are comparable skills, put them into your resume, right? There is no one single resume that's going to get you every job, but there's 100 jobs out there that need 100 different resumes. Right. It's a sad but true statement, right? Yeah. The other thing is translate military career into civilian. There's plenty of tools out there. Just Google them. A lot of us, it's hard to explain what we did sometimes. So you leave that part out unless it's germane to what you're applying for. And by that I mean, if I was 88 Mike in the Army driving trucks and I'm applying for a job in cyber, I don't think they really want to know about my truck driving skills. I'll put it down there because that was my MOS and that's what I did in the Army. But at the same time, I'm not going to expound on that as much. I'm going to go back to my training and highlight the training that I did in cyber, right? Because there's a couple different ways to write your resume. There's a functional resume, as I call it. There's a chronological resume. So the functional one to me is if I am trying to get a position that maybe I haven't had a lot of experience in, but I have a lot of education in, really highlight the education, break out the education part to highlight what you were trained in and what the skills that you learned in that program were, right? And then do a functional resume at the bottom of that by means, I was stationed here, this was my job, stationed here, this was my job. Highlight the education. Now the converse is true. If I don't have as much education, but I have a lot of job experience, on that career side, that's what I'm going to highlight, right? So say I have an associate's degree in whatever, criminal justice, for instance, or whatever, computer sciences. But the job I'm going for is completely out of that realm. I'm not going to highlight my education as much as I'm going to highlight that, hey, I was in the Navy, and this is what I did every day. These were my job quals. This is what I was graded on for my career path, and highlight that, because that's what they're going to want to see now, right? So take a look at where you're going, where you're coming from. And by that, I mean what you've done in the military and what career you're looking to do. Is it similar, or is it completely out of the box? If it's similar, highlight your military experience in greater detail. If it's out of the box, highlight your educational experience in greater detail, right? Simple way to look at it.
Yeah.
And then again, as I said, update that resume for every job you apply for. And cover letters that go with resumes, a lot of companies still ask for them. I don't know many that actually read them anymore, but it takes a few minutes. Come up with a simple template of how you want to submit yourself, and then add something personal to every one of those. If you're going to submit it with a cover letter, add something personal about the job that you're applying for and why you're applying for it. That's going to make the difference over all those other people. The amount of effort you put into your career is the amount of reward you'll get out of it.
Also, great points about the customization for each job you're applying to, but talk briefly about today. You have recruiters like the ones at 7 Eagle Group who are on LinkedIn and Indeed and Monster and ZipRecruiter all day long running searches trying to headhunt candidates. So if those keywords are not on even your generic resume that you have on all these sites, we're not going to find you.
Oh, that's very true from the headhunting side. And if you look at LinkedIn, think of LinkedIn as your online resume, right? So those same hot words, or hot buttons as I call them, put them into your LinkedIn profile, because that's going to make a huge difference, right? So if I put in Agile, Scrum Master, all these other things into my LinkedIn profile, those recruiters are going to see that. That's what they're searching for, right? Maybe they're searching for a language like, Arabic or Farsi or whatever. Make sure that's on your profile if you're looking in that career side, right? If you're not, you're going to get a lot of calls for people that, there might offer you something you didn't even know was out there yet, though, too. So
right.
Think about that.
Good. All right. Next, interviewing. So you do the resume, get you the interview, you go in there. What can they do? What can people do to really stand out and get to that next step of the job offer?
One thing I remember from college, so my communications instructor was HR manager from IBM prior to becoming a college professor or whatever. His big thing was that you have a 30-second elevator pitch. And as I said earlier, it's probably closer to 12 to 15 seconds, which is hard, right? But think of it like this. When they ask you to tell them a little bit about yourself, that's your elevator pitch. You want to give a couple of highlights about who you are, what you've done, where you want to be, right? So my name's Jay Sheehan. I've been in staffing for 22 years. I've brought 3 companies through this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the interviews used to have a couple of those tricky questions, right? What's one bad thing about you, or what's one of your downfalls? And if you carefully craft your answers to those questions ahead of time, you'll feel more comfortable about it. You're laughing, but I remember, what's one bad thing about you? And I remember the elevator pitch that he had us write, and I went with mine was that, I work too much, right? And it's still true to this day, frankly. It's unfortunate, but I work too much. And how is that a bad thing? Well, I mean, I miss out on family, I miss out on friends, I miss out on certain events, but where I'm at work, right? So from an employer's standpoint, oh, well, this guy or girl, really does the job and stays there a lot. That's great. So you just turn that pitfall into a positive, right? So if you think about those things, there's always an opportunity to turn something from a negative to a positive if you put thought into it prior. And we're all going to be nervous when we're speaking to that recruiter or hiring manager or whoever. The only thing I can tell you to do is just be honest, be yourself, take a couple deep breaths, relax. This does not make or break you, right?
Yeah.
This is just every opportunity. Every time we speak to someone is another opportunity to hone our skills, to talk about ourselves, which I don't know a lot of people that like to do that, to learn how to talk to a person about ourselves. We're selling ourselves into that job, right? So, or that career. So interviews are nerve-wracking and difficult, but at the same time, they're an excellent learning opportunity for us to get better at telling people about ourselves, our skills, our goals, you know. And honestly, after the first few, as long as you can relax and calm down, you're going to start to get your tempo. You're going to start to understand how these work, what you should and shouldn't say. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to role play with a friend prior. You know, you're going to start to hear the same questions over and over again. Guess what? Take notes. Don't be afraid to take notes in the interview. That's a huge thing. One thing I used to do, and I haven't done it recently because I haven't been in an interview in a while on my end, but one of the things that I would do in an interview is as I'm taking notes about what the interviewer has said to me. Maybe there was something that they brought up that I wasn't prepared for, or maybe they said something personal that I want to use in a thank you note later, right? That's the other thing. This is old school, real old school. I would go to the store and buy a pack of like 10 thank you cards, the blank ones with just a simple picture on the front. And as I was walking out of that interview with that person's business card, I'd go to the car, write a handwritten quick thank you for your time today. It was a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Sincerely, Jay Sheehan. And I would drop it in the mail as I was driving home. Mm-hmm. That card would show up in a couple of days, and guess what? You're the only card on that person's desk because no one does it anymore.
No doubt.
That simple, you know, whatever, 35, 50 cents with a stamp makes all the difference in the world. So,
yeah. And one other point about the interview, at least I notice as a civilian, is a lot of talk about how important it is for the veteran, regardless of what you did while serving, to go into that interview with confidence, knowing that you have a toughness, a dedication, a grit to you that other job seekers are not going to have, and to really stress those, you know?
Well, I've said this before that as a veteran or transitioning service member, you are getting that lead into the door, right? Because a lot of companies have, you know, hiring programs where they want to help transitioning or veterans or military spouses. Yeah. And listen, take advantage of that ability to get your foot in the door. And to your point about confidence walking in, there should be no one more confident about speaking about yourself than you. Right? You know what you did. You know who you are, right? You know that you had to get up for that, you know, 5K at 5 o'clock in the morning, raining out, cold, and you had the wrong PT gear on, you got smoked, whatever, right? We've all been there, but it's part of who made us, what made us who we are today. So don't be afraid to share that with people in the sense that you should be confident about your job, your skill set. You did it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's boring sometimes. We get bored. I get it. Hurry up and wait. But guess what? Most people in a civilian career don't have nearly the experience you do in the career that you did in the military.
Right.
Right. So again, be your own superstar. In other words, know who you are. Walk in with confidence, not cockiness, confidence. Because you know the person that they're interviewing. It's you.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget that.
Awesome. All right. Next one. So they land the job offer. A lot of people feel like, oh, I could sit back and coast now. Why is that a mistake? And what are some things people can do to get more responsibilities, more pay?
Well, I mean, to sit and rest on your laurels, I think is probably foolish for anyone, civilian or military or transitioning or veteran or whatever. In the military, we're always trying to get ahead and get that next promotion. So why would that end when we left? And why would that end when we get to a civilian career? So to your point about fast tracking, I don't think there's any one true way to do that, because there's so many different career fields out there and so many different career tracks to get there. But upping your skill set. So I'll speak about cyber, for instance. So you have your security plus or your network plus. Okay, so what's next? Go get that CYSA, go get that, CCNA, whatever it is. Start training yourself in your off time. Listen, there's plenty of schools online that are self-paced, right? I'm not talking about doing 40 hours a week on top of 40 hours a week. I'm talking about, okay, carve out 4 or 5 hours a week for your betterment, and that includes physical health as well. If we're not taking care of ourselves, how are we any good to our family, ourselves, or an employer, right? So go out, take a walk, maybe listen to a book online, or listen to your textbook for whatever that is. But there's plenty of education resources out there. I mean, I know that we offer several on the cyber track. The other thing is, we get told a lot to not volunteer for anything, right? Sometimes it's okay in the civilian side to volunteer. And it could be something as simple as helping someone set up a birthday party for someone in the office or in the warehouse or wherever it is. Those things are what the people above you are looking at, right? Are you willing to chip in? Are you willing to do everything that we did in the military in the civilian side? That'll help your career as well. The other thing too is, say you have a skill that you're not utilizing, but you're really good at it. There's freelance companies out there as well where you could freelance and really sharpen your skill set even further, make a little extra money, and maybe it's transferable, right? As long as you're not disobeying a company rule, or breaking any rules in that sense. Why not explore some more side work in order to help your career ahead, in the sense that, hey, you're getting more skill sets, more training, more experience in the civilian side, hey, and you're making a little bit more money. Nothing wrong with
that. Yeah, that's great. Good advice. All right, and last one. You touched on this earlier a little bit, but talk a little bit more about how important this is. I see you in you every day, where strangers reach out to you who are confused or lost, and they want advice, and you drop everything to help these guys. So talk about that importance of that for everyone.
Well, I mean, I did touch on it earlier, but so on the career side, paying it forward could be when that person reaches out to you on LinkedIn that you've never met, and they're a veteran or transitioning out, and they're saying, hey, can you help me? Why would we say no? Is your life so busy, or is my life so busy that I can't accept that friend request and spend 13 seconds replying, hey, nice to connect, let me know how I can help you? I know a lot of us are we're guarded with our contacts and stuff like that, depending on the field you're in, right? But maybe spend 30 seconds and talk to this person back and forth before you send them over to your contact, right? If you are uncomfortable with somebody new asking right out of the gate. The other thing too is, and I said this earlier, and this was in an interview that I was part of at this point, and he was the former first sergeant from 160th, and his thing was, and this is on the veteran suicide side, and this is why when I say pay it forward, it hits hard. Answer the damn phone, right? Answer the phone, or answer that email, or answer that text message, because you don't know if your brother and sister's out there hurting. And maybe you didn't serve with them, but doesn't mean that you can't be a decent person for them and for yourself. So paying it forward to me means a lot more. But we also have, like at 7 Eagle Group, we have the Veteran Mentorship Network that people can become a part of, where depending on your industry, we might have an intern that's in your industry, and you're able to pay it forward by helping that person out with their career path. Maybe they have questions, that something came up at work that they have no clue what was said, and they're afraid to get out of their shell enough to ask that question. So if they're part of the mentorship network, maybe they can reach out to that mentor. And don't be afraid to try to be a mentor. That's the other thing.
Right.
So a lot of us, it's that whole, I don't want to talk about myself thing because I'm not comfortable with it. Well, you know what? There's no one better at your job than you, right? Or your life, or your career, or your past, or your history than you. So you are a subject matter expert when it comes to you, right? So why be afraid to be that person for people, right? Just because I might not be a CEO of a bank doesn't mean that if you ask me for help balance your checkbook, I wouldn't help you out. You know, stuff like that. It's the simplest things that we all struggle with sometimes, and we're afraid to ask for help. But on the other side of that is we're afraid to offer help because we don't want to feel like we don't know everything. Guess what? We don't have to know everything, but we have to be there for each other. And that to me is what's paying it forward. Be there for your brother and your sister. And, you know, sometimes it hurts. We'll mess up, we'll make mistakes, but at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all trying to get through this every day. So
that's great. Thank you. That was good. All right, that concludes this live. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching this. I truly hope you got some great information out of what Jay offered here today. If you get a chance, we have a talent network at 7 Eagle Group. Please join that, because that'll give you the ability to be seen by all of our recruiters at 7 Eagle Group. And as we talked about, when we're headhunting for positions, we can reach out to you if we feel you're a good match. Join our Facebook and LinkedIn groups, because we have lots of other great information and tips for you. And then anytime, I'm always available, and I know Jay is as well, to have a personal call with us. We're always here to help you guys. And Jay, I can't thank you enough for taking some time. I am so inspired by watching you every day. I mean, the work you do on behalf of this community is truly, it's remarkable. And please, anyone, reach out to Jay. You won't find a nicer guy who will help you with his career, with your career.
Thanks for having me.
You got it.